What's good, bro?
What's up, man? How you doing?
Man, happy Father's Day, Jason.
Oh, likewise, good sir. Happy Father's Day.
Yeah, we record on Sundays, and today just happens to be Father's Day. So
what a lovely day.
Good to see my fellow black father over there on Father's Day. I missed you, my guy.
I missed you too, man. I missed you too. How was your spring and your early summer? Was life good? Was it grand?
You know how it is with spring, and we set ourselves up to give us a little flexibility going into peak migration so we could, soak it up and be there for our clubs. And, this time of year, it feels like we're being pulled in like a million directions sometimes. It's magical.
It really is.
It's magical,
it really
right?
Is.
Like,
it really is. I mean, anytime you get to sit down with the homies, or in our case, for the last few weeks, be able to observe our audience and interact with them on socials and just see how the pod is doing. Like, I got to give a shout out to all the homies out there that are listening. Like, y'all have been great.
Yeah.
It just really, I think, inflamed this sense of community with Dexter and I. And we're just so proud to be here and represent y'all. And it's made this spring a memorable one for sure. Absolutely.
Man, I can't think of a better way to say welcome to the Birdjoy podcast. I'm Dexter Patterson.
And I'm Jason Hall. And this podcast is for all the bird nerds, all the bird homies out there that want to find a little bird joy.
And the homies specifically, I love that you gave them a shout out right away, because like it has been the homies. We were talking about this a little bit before we jumped on the call to record, where it was like, we started this podcast, bro, because we like had this yearning to share some bird joy with the world.
Yep.
And we're like masterminding behind the scenes and like recording and like plotting and scheming all this joy that we're going to generate for the world. And then all of a sudden we started just getting like so much bird joy in return. We talk about the community and the homies. Oh man, like the messages, like us texting back and forth, like we're just getting them. And like, I look forward to that so much. And like so many people, they talk about how we're now a part of their routine or their daily life, and we're bringing them joy. But bro, how much joy are they bringing us? That's all I'm saying.
Immense. Every DM, every comment, we see it and we try our best to respond. And it really validates the fact that there is a large community out there of beginner birders, of birders of different backgrounds, BIPOC birders. And Dexter and I we're just trying to represent as best we can. And all of the kind words, the kind feedback, especially when you're sharing your stories of your bird joy, it really, really brings the whole thing together. And really, that's what we want this podcast to be, a representation of that community and a place where you guys can come regularly for joy. And I think we're doing it. I think we're doing it.
This place, like this space is for you, and it's so beautiful. Like, I want y'all to, please don't stop doing that. Continue to share those stories with us. It's like fuel. It really is. Yeah. Bird joy is fuel. Like, you know what I mean? Like, where we going next, bro? Because I need some more. Like, keep sharing this stuff, because it has been beautiful. I want to hear from all the homies out there. Are there topics? Are there things that you want us to talk about? Guests that, maybe we should be chatting with, because that's going to be like this next phase of the pod. We're going to start bringing people on to share their stories of bird joy, because if we've seen it, you go to the Bird Joy Pod IG and you look through those comments and you see all the bird joy that's being shared, the bird joy that's been shared in the DMs with us. Like, it's out there, and there are so many amazing stories. You talked about this, Jason, that was part of your inspiration, is like, you want to be able to like uncover these type of stories that are out there. So I know you're just like happy-go-lucky right now, seeing all of this unfolding in front of your very eyes, brother.
That's right. And the wild part is there's probably so much still in the bank too, in terms of topics we can cover. I mean, just this spring, we gotta talk about Black Birders Week. We got to talk about Spring Bird Joy. We got to talk about what we're looking forward to for the summer. We got other episodes planned. And like, this is where I think we need to be in this pocket regularly. So again, appreciate everybody that listens regularly. I love the stories of hearing like, hey, I listen to you when I go grocery shopping. I listen to you guys when I do my Saturday morning walk. You know, I listen to you guys on my way to work every Friday. Like, that is amazing. And we are so blessed and honored and just very, very thankful and grateful to all of you for listening. So,
amen. Amen, man. One more time for the people in the back. I'm loving this. So you mentioned Black Birders Week. That wrapped up. It was only like 2 weeks ago.
I know.
It seems like it was like yesterday because like all the anticipation and
I know.
There's all the homies all over the world, all over the globe, just kind of celebrating and making the impact. And I'm looking at all the stuff you're doing and everybody else, you know, all the homies. And I'm just like, dude, just thinking about it has me just happy again, right? Like, it's only a week. Everybody needs to know like that week inspires the entire year, inspires like everything, inspired this podcast, the connection. Like, I don't think we connect if it isn't for that week and Christian getting us all together and bringing us down there.
Wait. You mean Emmy winning Christian Cooper?
Yeah.
You mean that one?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That
Daytime one. Emmy Award.
Yes, that's right. That one. Yeah. I just want to make sure everybody knows we got to put some respect on it.
Yeah. You know? We got to put some respect with a K
that's
on
right.
Christian name right now. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
On my name.
We are so unserious today.
Oh man, you know, I get excited when I get. We talked about in other podcasts. Like, I get excited when I see my people winning. You think about what he went through in 2020 and his whole mind frame. Talk about it being inspiring.
Yeah,
just watching how he handled it with grace, and that's bird joy. When I think about how he handled that and the learning experience, and how he was like, you know what? I'm going to make me some lemonade and I'm going to be the man that I am. And I think ultimately that's the biggest thing that I respect most about him is he didn't let that experience take him outside of his body, outside of his character.
Yeah.
He continues to lead our community, and man, grateful to have a person like that we can lean on every once in a blue moon. And I'm not going to blow Christian up like that. I know he listens and he cares about us and he's here for us. And man, I am happy for that, man.
It was so lovely, man. When I saw the post come across, you know, it was just such validation for those of us that have met him, followed his story. Yeah, it was party time, and it actually translated into the mainstream media too. A lot of people were reminded of the story, and a lot of people came to Instagram for different content creators were sharing this of like, remember the homie that got accosted? Boom, Emmy, boom. How about that? Right? Yeah. How about that for clapback? Right? So that to me was really special seeing it slide back into the mainstream media again to remind folks that, like, number one, it does take some bravery to address these issues in public. And Christian did that, right? He came to that place and did that. But then to flip it on him like that. You remember back in the day, the old like Busta Rhymes, and be like flip mode, they told me to, my daddy told me to flip it on him. Like, it was like, flip mode. Yeah, right. Like, I was like, damn. He was like, I was just burdened and you want to act a fool. And now I got a daytime Emmy. So how about that? And
a New York best-selling memoir that just hit paperback like 2 days ago. You know what I mean? Like, come on, man.
Disney Plus, Nat Geo show. Like, come on, man. This is ridiculous. So we got to, talking about Black Birders Week, we got to spend in Philly with our In Color Birding Club homies. We got to spend 2 different days with him, and it was a treat, beautiful. Man. It was a treat. It was a treat. I mean, don't be jealous. Don't be jealous.
It was beautiful. Right? It was so beautiful.
So we get like 35 homies together to go up from Philly. Fills up fast, right? And I didn't think about this too much, but Indigo asked, right? And, Indigo Goodson Fields, who was leading us on this journey that day, she asked, hey, can some homies from New York come? I'm like, yeah, I bet, and she's like, I'm cool with the big group. And I was like, if you're good with it, I'm good with it. So we rolled up with 35 and we probably had another 20 people from the Bronx, Brooklyn, Harlem, and Queens.
Beautiful.
Bro, it was deep. We were in the park. And so we get off the bus, right? We leave Philly at like 5 a.m. We get off the bus at like 7:15 on Central Park West and 77th. And everybody just kind of glazed over because we all were up early, right? Trying to get our bearings. And we roll up and Christian's just chilling right there on the corner. Indigo's coming in. She's got the squad, her kid and her husband with her. And the homies from New York start showing up. So we're rolling through the park. We're walking straight into the park and we're going to the Ramble, which is the spot that the incident happened at.
Yeah.
And and like, Central Park is beautiful. There's all these just amazing pieces of stone and work and architecture and these trails that weave into these little micro habitats. We start the morning with like Baltimore Orioles singing over this pond and skyline in the background. And we go through this little like tiny little trail through this little archway. And we come out on this big like walkway, like asphalt walkway. And we're going up the hill. And I don't know where we're going. I'm just following Indigo. We're birding, we're vibing, catbirds everywhere. And Christian's talking in mid-sentence. He's like, Blackburnian warbler, which is his favorite bird, right?
We learned that on his show. Yeah.
Right? Yeah, right? His favorite bird. I didn't hear it, right? Because there's people talking, we're chilling.
Yeah.
And homie is like, he looks up and there it is. It's hopping around up in a tree with a blackpoll warbler. And I didn't even care about the bird. I was just watching all the people. So we come around this corner, we get a better spot. We got like 50 people lined up, right? And I'm standing in front of them. They're looking over my head behind me to look at this bird. And I hear Christian telling them where it is. Some of our other bird leaders are out there telling them where it is. And I'm just looking at everybody's face, right? People are just melting with bird joy. Like,
it started by you hearing Christian scream
Christian
out,
turned it like literally he was in mid-conversation. Like, I feel like if there's like, he will pick that sound out of anything, right? And being able to pick it out of a bunch of people talking is probably a New York City skill set, honestly, right? Because there's always people around. But everybody got on that bird. We spent probably 20 minutes in that spot watching the Blackburnian and the Blackpoll just bop around, making sure everybody got to see it, right? And they got to see it with Christian.
Community in action, baby.
Bro, it was amazing. I was like, did somebody pay this bird? You're literally going to tell me one of the most important symbols of getting out into nature in this decade for us, and his favorite bird is with us in his patch. We finish up with the bird. We walk another probably 80 yards, and he stops and he goes, this is where it happened. Wow. We were at the spot.
Wow.
So we were at that spot where it happened. We all kind of stopped for a minute and just kind of felt it because we just had that Blackburnian joy. And it was like, well, damn. Right? Yeah. It was a lot.
What's crazy is that day, the only reason he was there is to maybe see a Blackburnian warbler.
Right.
He was there to get some bird joy.
Dude.
Right?
Listen.
That's not
anything.
Remember I told you? Yeah. Head blowing up right now.
Right? So like everybody got to feel like they are now being part of this reclamation of that space in some small way, to say that we're there with him. And because of his speaking up and speaking out on this, we were able to share that bird joy in that space and reclaim that space with 50 Black and brown folks that morning. Meanwhile, 5 minutes later, what are we getting in that same spot? Gray cheek thrush, right? Our bird leaders, Jeff, pulled that one out because somebody on the trail that saw us birding, that liked the vibe, was like, hey, if y'all want to see some cool birds, there's a gray cheek thrush right up there. Y'all got to look for it. But it might be up there, right? We got on the gray cheek thrush. We birded the rest of the park, man. We met up with other homies that Christian knew. We had Swainson's thrush everywhere. It was just a beautiful morning. Every corner we turned, there was a new landscape, right? And everybody was vibing.
Wow.
And then we finished that, hop back on the bus, go to Queens to get some lunch. And then we went to Rockaway Beach with the NYC Plover Project. And we met with them, with Chris O'Leary and Mel. And we got people, their lifer, piping plovers and oyster catchers, great blackback gulls,
Wow.
It was insane, dude. It was insane. And the wild part is the place where the plovers are protected there in Far Rockaway Beach is surrounded by mostly a Black and brown community. And there's a lot of conversation ongoing around like, how do you empower that community to also want to protect these birds, right? Because they have to close the beach for a little bit, and that's not great for everybody. And I can understand how that looks. And so there's a lot of work being done to try and bridge that gap. And hopefully bring some of those ecotourism dollars to that community, create some agency for that community. And the best part about that, bro, we're talking before we go look at the birds, and they're telling us about some of these dynamics within the community and how to keep the birds safe, how to keep the people happy and accessing the beach and da. We finally start looking at the birds, and these 3 young Black men come up. And you could tell they were just chilling, right? It was Sunday. They were just vibing. They was just walking on the boardwalk. It's an absolutely beautiful beach. Absolutely gorgeous. And they were like, yo, what are y'all looking at? And I'll be honest, I'm not sure they would have walked up to us had we not been a large group of Black and brown folks.
Right.
Be honest.
There's
right?
like, there go my people. What they on over there, you know?
No, we got all 3 of them in the scope for like 5 to 10 minutes, right? They were like, yo, I would have never seen that plover. It's so little. I'm like, yeah, man, that's why the beach is closed down. They just need a couple months. Their babies are the size of a quarter. And they were like, you're lying. I'm like, bro, showed him a picture on my phone. He was like, that's insane. And I was like, yeah, that's what this whole thing is for. Is like, they're super endangered and they're choosing to nest here in your community. And so they were like, yo, this is so dope. Cause I got them looking in the scope. They're getting that intimate view. So like that whole experience going from Central Park with Christian to meet up with the Piping Plover homies out there in Far Rockaway Beach was so meaningful to a lot of people. And honestly, like I couldn't ask for a better day. Really, nothing went wrong. People were amazing. And like,
you can see the bird joy emanating from your body right now.
Literally, it doesn't even like talking about it. It doesn't, because I haven't spoken about it. I made a couple Instagram posts for our birding club, but I couldn't explain to them like that moment of seeing the Blackburnian or that moment of showing the homies at Far Rockaway Beach the Piping Plover. So
what an experience.
Yeah, it was from that moment. Think about it. That moment that we all saw that on the news, the way our hearts probably sank.
Yeah. It's triggering for me because during that time it was so much. You had George Floyd, you had Ahmaud Arbery, and Breonna Taylor, and like there was so much stuff happening, and then that was just like triggering all these other emotions at the same time, bro. Whew,
it was
about Woosah, like that was like a moment of like
the ears.
Woosah, because it felt like every day I had the woosah, you know what I mean? And like,
that's right.
Birds, I always tell people birds saved me on so many levels during that time period. Oh, it was intense. The division, the tension, you could, every day you could just feel it. It was just in the air. Beanie Siegel, Philly shout out, you could just feel it in the air. You know what I mean?
That's right.
Yeah. Like literally. And it was, if I didn't have birds, bro, I don't know if I'd have made it through that time. The whole human being that I'm trying to be, I always tell people I'm a work in progress. That time period did a number on a lot of people. We talked about this in the mental health thing. I just don't know what kind of person I would be if I didn't have birds throughout that whole time period. And just to hear you talk about that, and I can't imagine 40, 50 people of color getting put on the Blackburnian by Christian with that amount of bird joy. But then the bird alone is a special bird. It's the only bird with an all orange throat. Wow. It's so unique in that thing. There's not another bird that has an all orange throat like that, it's right?
Wild, man. Like, and it's.
You can just see it.
Yeah. And it's
once
it's
you see
hard,
it,
right?
you can't unsee it.
It felt like a little bit of a Disney movie, a little bit, right? Like this kind of the moment in the movie where everything comes together and there's restitution and reclamation, right? And so,
I love it.
Honestly, gotta stop talking about it. I'm gonna start crying or something. Like it was great, man. That was the beginning of our Blackbirders Week, and then at the end we had an event, our Black Excellence in Birding Gala and Sneaker Ball. So everybody was looking fresh. We had on the tuxedos. I had on some fresh J's. Everybody had on just their finest and some fresh sneaks. And we had Christian being interviewed by Karina Newsom. So she came up. She's Philly native. So everybody else relax in Atlanta and otherwise. All right, she's from Philly. So calm down. Having her interview him in a crowd of about 200 people, everybody well fed. They got to tour the private bird collections. We got to look at some extinct birds that they had in the collections. Finishing the week off with that and everybody getting to just hear him, that created a lot of buzz because he told us he was nominated for the Emmy and all that stuff. And so then finally coming out a couple weeks later that he did win the Emmy, it's like it was like 2.5 weeks of bliss. And I really, we cannot leave this podcast episode without giving just extreme flowers to the folks over at Black AF and STEM. Just
right.
5th annual, amazing, supporting groups all across the country that are doing different things. The way they stay organized, they stay on message, bring us new faces, new voices all the time. Like, just flowers to them. If you don't follow them, Black AF and STEM on Instagram, they're supporting other organizations. I think Black in Neuro is either just passed or is about to come up. Black in Neuroscience, right? There's Black in Marine Science, right? There's a Black in National Parks Week. It's just all this amazing stuff. Shout out to them because they were also a supporter of the event. And I'll be honest, I don't know how we're going to top that next year. I mean, that was a week, man. It was a week.
It's beautiful when shout out to Black AF and STEM for sure. You talk about how they inspired all these other movements. We already talked about how they inspired us. They connected us. You talked about that moment of posting on what was then Twitter and then all of a sudden realizing, wait a minute, I am not the only homie out here.
Yeah, there are other
and we
homies.
are like literally all over the place. And Black Birders Week for me was just like, has always been something where I was, wow. You know, as a little kid, I looked for that representation and I never really saw it. Growing up, you don't see people that look like us, that look like our friends in nature, let alone nerding out about birds like we do on this podcast.
Yes, sir.
I start thinking about Black Birders Week. We've talked about this. It's how I met you. It's how I met so many other people. It's also like one of those moments where like you feel like seen. You know what I mean? Like as an educator, as somebody that, you know, I always try to do my best to like, I can have a class of 50 people and I always try to, by the end of the semester, know the names of all 50 students.
That's
right. And there's a reason for that is because like I grew up in an educational system where I rarely felt seen or heard or thought of or anything. And like, I take this approach as an educator and the same way I run my birding club from everybody is different. There's no one size fits all approach. Yeah. You know, I try to understand that like life circumstances are different for every single student, just like they are every single birder. Mm-hmm. We know that as leading birding clubs, differently abled folks, people from different backgrounds, different socioeconomic backgrounds. Like I look around and I come to our events and I'm like, this is America. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm like, look at this. Isn't this what America is supposed to be? Like this diverse, beautiful melting pot of community and ideas that everybody kind of works together for the greater good and as the whole.
Yep.
And it's kind of beautiful. And like, that's what Black Birders Week does for me. It's just like every week I'm like, man, I just get to like bask in the glory of the people. And it's a beautiful thing. And this week was no different this year, 5 years in. And it's like, I actually got to go birding with one of the organizers of Black Birders Week, and Nicole Jackson. She was in town in Madison. Yeah. So, you know, I was not going to let the homie come through and not take her birding.
That's awesome.
So got her on the Blackpoll Warbler and like some cool birds. What was so cool about it was it started raining.
Yeah.
The rain scares off a lot of people.
It does.
It didn't scare off Nicole. It didn't scare off me. Didn't scare off a woman to drive from Milwaukee who heard that Nicole was coming in town to give a talk for the Nature is Everywhere conference. Like this is a national nature conference was hosted in Madison that week. Wow. And Nicole was one of the speakers for that. And this person drives from Milwaukee because she wanted to see the talk. She wasn't able to attend the conference, but she wanted to go birding with her.
Hey.
So it's raining.
Even better.
And here we are, me, Nicole, and a couple community members just going through one of my favorite spots. So I like picked the spot and we just led this walk together and just think about 40, 50 people and 100 people. And it's sometimes we talked about on the pop-up events where you might have a couple people.
Intimacy.
And they get that intimacy of like birding is a little bit different. There's a lot more attention you can spend with every single person there. Yep. And for me, I cherish those moments because like, I know I'm going to make some sort of memory with all of them.
Yeah.
And for me, that's what matters. And
Yeah.
Oh, I just think back on that walk. That was one of my favorite things that happened. And later that day, we were supposed to have our group event, but due to rain, our event was outdoors. We had to reschedule it for the next day. And unfortunately, Nicole couldn't make that part. But the next day, we held our annual Black Birders Week event for the BIPOC Birding Club of Wisconsin. We collaborated with a couple other organizations. Remember, we talked about that power of the collaboration?
Yeah.
So we collaborated with the Southern Wisconsin Bird Alliance, formerly Madison Audubon, and also the Feminist Bird Club of Madison for an amazing Black Birders Week event. We obviously celebrated Black birders and all the birds we love, but we did it in a really unique way this year where we partnered with the Southern Wisconsin Bird Alliance to host our event at one of their protected wildlife sanctuaries.
Ooh.
And it was one of their newly acquired properties.
Nice.
It's closed to the public. The public has access to it, but you have to have like a conversation. Let's just say that. You can't just show up and just, there's people that live on the property and these people donated this land, bro, to be protected in perpetuity for wildlife. And it's some, I can't remember the amount of acres, but I believe it's around almost 800 acres, but it's just an amazing place. It's just beautiful prairies and woodlands and wetlands. And it's like the land is also adjacent to a state natural area. So it kind of like expands on even beyond that property because it's adjacent to all this other stuff. And bro, we had almost 100 people there of all walks of life. Like we had, bro, when I talk about every generation of birders, bro, we had a little black boy running around in his do-rag and a diaper. You know what I mean? So like when I say all birding is for everyone, you could have a diaper on and a do-rag and you could be grandma sitting with her granddaughter with multiple generations. So like it was just one of these, just if you can imagine it, they were there basically.
That's awesome,
just think, and we also partnered with an organization called the Who's Woods Raptor Center. And they do wildlife rehabilitation and they save raptors and different birds. And they actually came and they brought some of their birds, bro. So they brought a golden eagle, a peregrine falcon, a saw-whet owl, and a great horned owl.
I'm not jealous at all.
Bro,
how was that? How was that golden eagle though? Like,
probably gonna butcher the name, but it was Wapaha. I believe his name is Wapaha, and Wapaha was 26 years old, a vet. So he was actually retired by whenever you take on birds and you take them out to do demonstrations and you rehab a bird and like basically the bird's been determined that it can't go back into the wild. The government says, hey, it needs to make a certain amount of educational appearances to be this type of bird and all that good stuff. He's been doing it for 20 plus years. So now he's retired and he only has to do special events. So I was like, well, Paha is at our event, folks. He's at Black Birders Week. You know what I mean? So that was like really exciting, but like we talked about the little boys and remember Roman? I was telling you about Roman.
Yeah.
Guess what bird is Roman's favorite bird? The peregrine falcon.
Oh man.
And Roman knows everything you can know about a peregrine falcon, and most birds of prey. And it's so funny because as the falconer, as the caretaker, is going through her presentation and she's interacting, just phenomenal job, by the way. Shout out to Who's Raptor Center, and she's asking all these questions, and guess whose hand is going up right away every time? This little black boy knows every freaking answer. She's like, I cannot tell you this. She said, I've been doing this for 20 plus years, and I've never ever had a person, let alone a kid, know the answer to all these questions.
Let's go.
Right?
Excellent. That's right.
And I was like, you ain't met Roman, boy. Everybody just like, he turns bird joy into like, he takes it to a different stratosphere. You know what I mean? And the fact that he got to see that and he got a picture of the actual bird they got to meet, and it was his favorite bird. She's like, I want you to have this. And like, I get a picture of Roman holding like his peregrine falcon picture. But it was beautiful, bro. We went through and for many of these people, they were families, and a lot of the black families there, it was their first birding experience, and they were bringing their kids, and like we encouraged that. We had a barbecue, we had food, and there was a bald eagle nest on site, so people got to see 3 immature bald eagles in the nest, and
were they surprised at how dark they were?
Yeah, like just kind of, and then they also saw the golden eagle, so then there was like, well, what's the difference between the golden eagle and the immature? And all, like it just it was so beautiful, bro. And like I just think back on like the inspiration from the week. It just like culminates into clubs, like movements. Look at what we've started, and I hope they understand that what they did will never be done again. And like thank you, because those type of memories, bro, like I'll be looking. I got another little picture, and I want people to imagine it. Man, I'll probably how about I send you some of these pictures? You can throw them in a little video.
We can do it.
Yeah. We've been doing some cool stuff with the socials. But also like the little black boy pointing up in the air, and what he's pointing at are the eagle nest, because he saw it. Because we're like, the guide was like, shout out to Chris, our guide. He's like, we're coming up to it, and he saw it. The little black boy is like, there it is. And it reminds me of the little boy you told me about in your club, Andre, where he like he just sat there with the bald eagles and had his own little news segment on the spot about it. Those memories, man. Black Birders Week 2024, 5 years in, epic. That's all I can say.
I think Andre is actually on his way to Acadia National Park, I think, with Audubon, with their Young Birders camp. I think he's actually on his way up there. I gotta check in. I just remember that. I gotta find out that Andre see a puffin.
Young Birders camp. I love this.
Yeah. There's a bunch of cool stuff.
Right? You think Andre ever thought that he'd be going to a birders camp to see possibly see a puffin? Probably not. But you changed that. You showed them that possibility. That's why representation matters, folks.
Sure does.
Andre is at camp because that's why it matters. That's why.
Yeah, sure does. And shout out to his mom. She saw that spark and she made sure she was fanning that flame. So shout out to Janine. Man, that whole week, like I feel like you and I just explained our experience with it in our 2 cities, right? There was stuff going on all over the country. I can't imagine if maybe at some point we can get some folks on to talk about their different experiences in different cities, because I don't know that we share enough of that afterwards. And I think the folks at Black AF and STEM do as much as they possibly can to amplify all of this. Maybe being able to hear from people directly on what that is really going to be a beautiful thing, because I think it gets more people excited about it, right? Because I'm already thinking about next year. Like, what are we going to do? We get on a plane and go to Africa?
What's next?
So we had this amazing event with Christian, right, at the Academy of Natural Sciences here in Philly, and one of the questions was about how do you expand Black Birders Week internationally, and it was from her name's Marilyn Como, I think. She's a conservation scientist who's here for a few months up at Hawk Mountain studying raptors, and she was talking about just how do we get this into different sub-Saharan African nations, because the same things don't apply, right? Like there's not Black folks in a lot of those countries are the majority. How do you take something like this that creates so much joy? And she was very emotional about it because she had not been in a room with that many other Black naturalists, scientists, bird lovers. And then she's thinking, well, how do I go home and bring this to my home country? You know what I mean? And even though there may have not have been an event with Christian Cooper that was largely based around the racism and systemic oppression here in the United States, there are other things that those communities struggle with, right? In terms of getting access to nature. So it's something I think folks should start to think about, right? Because even last year when we had David Lindo, the urban birder from Europe, he was out here with us during Black Birders Week. He had the same reaction, but his thing was, well, I've only met like 4 or 5 other Black birders in all of Europe actually out on the trail, which blew my mind because he's birding. Because at the time he was telling us this, we had him down at the beach, looking at godwits with me, and like it was like 4 or 5 other Black folks, right? Which he had never done that. Now I'm thinking like this message that Black AF and STEM procures every year for us, this kind of point of celebration. How do we keep it going? What's next? And honestly, it's not one of those thoughts that makes me tired. Now, granted, I'm not in Black AF and STEM. I don't have to organize all of this stuff. I know they work very hard to do so. But in my head, I'm just thinking, like, what's next? Can we imagine a world where one day, instead of 50 homies going to Central Park, 50 homies get on a plane and go to Tanzania?
Man, let's go.
Right? Or like even if we was like, hey, let's we'll get 50 folks on a plane and we'll go to Chicago, meet up with the BIPOC homies in Chicago. The homies from Madison come down and we have a event with 3 clubs, right? Like that would
homies
be
in Detroit.
Yes, right. Like there's always been this talk about like a Black Birders bird
conference,
conference or festival. We have all these birding festivals all over the nation, right? And so like I think we should think about it a little more on how exactly we would do it. But the pieces are starting to come together because each group is getting stronger, more set in, more resources being given, being supported in better ways. It's possible. I think the closest one right now is the Black Belt Birding Festival that they have down in Alabama. I think it's the Alabama Audubon. I'm still a little bit on the high from Black Birders Week, and I'm not going to...
Same, bro. Same. And I love that it's like, it's kind of right on the heels, like kind of peak migration or right after peak migration. So like you're already just like oozing with bird joy. You know what I'm saying? Just like bird joy everywhere. Speaking of migration, it's spring migration. Yeah, peak migration's over. We're into nesting season, and I love it because I'm starting to see the little babies out there and things like that. Thinking back on the spring migration, what was your bird nerd spring migration moment?
I mean, I talked about this on another podcast, but going to see a thrush, Bicknell's thrush, and ending up seeing it, but really not being my favorite moment. My favorite moment was being surrounded by like 4 singing Swainson's thrush that I'm never gonna forget that. And that spot, every time I go to that spot now, that's what I'm gonna think. And I'm probably gonna go there every spring now, regardless of whether or not there's a Bicknell's thrush, just because it was a quiet, beautiful forest. And like that part to me was great. I was with a great friend of mine. But honestly, like that was my personal moment, right? Like just for me, springtime really, I mean, listen, I took 50 people to go see a Blackburnian warbler with Christian Cooper in Central Park. So
it's hard to top something like that. Yeah.
How do I top that? Really, it's really going to be tough for the rest of my life to top that moment of community. The bird was awesome. Blackburnians are always awesome. My eyes and my brain, like if I ever have any issues with memory, I hope that's one of the last things I forget is that 5 to 20 minutes of pure, unadulterated community and bird joy with Christian in Central Park. What about you?
Yeah, we did talk about it. We were on the ABA podcast, and you talked about the Bicknell's thrush, and I talked about finally seeing my first American avocets, and that during that podcast, everybody's just like gloating about all these cerulean warblers that they've seen, and I was like, oh, by the way, I've never seen one. And they were like, oh my god, I saw one. So, and what was so cool about it is it was because of Rita and another one of Rita's pop-up events. She decided to do a pop-up event at a spot literally less than it was like 37 minutes away, bro. It's a state forest, a state natural area, and they breed there. And she's like, I've been to this place before and I've heard the bird, but I never got eyes on it, so I never counted it. And she's like, I want to go back. And what was so cool about it, she had this story about her and her brother joined us, and they used to go camping at this place when they were kids. And it's changed so much. And they were talking about when they were there as kids, you could see all the little trees that had just been planted. And then like now they go back 20 plus years later and it's a forest, and like they remember going to this campground that didn't have all this lush forest or anything like that. So imagine her, like I was like, that is so wild that full circle moment for Rita and to be there with her, for her to get, I think she said it was like life bird 347 for Wisconsin. She a true G.
For Wisconsin.
from Wisconsin.
Oh, Rita was like, y'all better come out here and get good.
Yeah,
That's what
yeah.
she
So
said.
like she on a different
Damn.
level of bird
Okay,
like
Rita.
excellence.
Okay,
You know
Rita,
what I mean?
we see you. We see you, Rita. We see you. We understand you about that life. We understand.
But we saw it, bro, and then I saw the bird, and I got the group on the bird, and it was so cool to be able to do that. To not only get it after like being on the ABA pod and talking about it, and it was another. Yeah, it was another one of those birds like the avocet that just evaded me. And it's not because I don't bird, right? Like it's just like there are certain birds and like birders, I promise, drop it in the comments. I promise you it's like a bird that every birder that listens to this podcast knows that like just evades them for no reason. Yeah. Like you think it's personal. It's not personal, right? You're like, these birds just hate me. You know, like, you know how many times I hear people say this bird hates me or that bird hates me?
Yeah, happens all the time. All the time. A nemesis bird, man, it gets all of us. And the wild part is you think you're going to have one nemesis bird. No.
Yeah.
After you get through the first one, another one will keep popping up on your needs list. Yeah. Or every time you try to go see it. But that is just a reminder to folks that these birds don't owe you nothing. And the moments that you do actually get to finally see them, I promise you will probably be better than when you anticipated. You know?
Yeah. So, and like I said, man, you know, as bad as I want to see every single bird immediately, I know it's not realistic and it's not personal. So trust me, bro, when I saw those avocets, I sat down on the beach. It was freezing cold. I sat down on the beach, bro, and I was like, you talking about like, let me shut up talking about Black Birders Week. I might cry. Like I was sitting there emotional because I was like, not only did I see these birds, but I saw them in such a unique way. They were out in the freaking lake swimming.
Wild. I've never seen that.
And I was like, but also before that happened, I went through this range of emotions of thinking that they were gone again because I didn't see them on the beach, which is like typically how everybody shows this bird. They're walking right along the beach. And like I pull up and they're not along the beach. And I'm like, oh, they're gone again. You know, it's personal.
You got it, though. You got it. Yeah, you got it, homie.
So it was just a spring of lifers and memories, bro. Like it is that memory. Like you said, I hope I never forget some of that stuff. I forget so much stuff. Those memories, it's weird. I could look at a picture of a bird that I took, a photograph, and I can tell you where I was, how I was feeling. It's weird. Like it transports me there immediately. And some people are just like, dude, do you got like a photographic memory? I said, when it comes to birds and the experiences that I have with birds, pretty much. Yeah, I do.
Well, it's because it's like other things. When you have to put effort into it, you form those synapses in your neurons, right? And so even if it's as simple as, all right, I got to wake up at 4 a.m. and drive 2 hours to the marsh. And then I got to walk to this spot and I got to be listening. Let me listen to the song while I'm going to sleep. Let me study the plumage, right? Maybe it's a weird flycatcher or something. So that when you finally see it, it's like those scenes, you know, like Power Rangers where they all link up together and form the big warrior. You know, it's like all those synapses link up together. Everything comes together because you got it. And then that dopamine hits and those endorphins hit and that solidifies it. Right. So then when you look at that picture, those same synapses fire. Right. It's I talk about this with birding and mental health. And someone just sent me an article that came out a couple years ago around the science of why birdsong reduces stress. So maybe I'll share that in this podcast show notes. I know exactly what that feeling is, brother. I have the same thing. I see stuff pop up on my Facebook, or I'll just be messing around in old photo catalogs and I'll be like, oh man, I forgot I saw that bird there. That was awesome. That was a great day. What was that taco place I went to? Like, you know, like you get transported back to the whole experience, right? And being able to do that with other people too is amazing. I understand.
Am I the only one? Like you see a bird in a certain spot at a certain location, and when you go back to that spot, do you just stand there and wait and like think the bird's gonna show up?
No, you know what I do, and I probably sound like an idiot when I do it, is like sometimes I'll do bird walks and it'll be like the middle of winter and we're out there looking at ducks or something at John Hines, and I'll be like, oh, you know, this is also the spot that in the summer comes, you know, this stuff grows up in the middle of water, and I saw a Hudsonian godwit, right? And everybody standing there in January like, I don't care that you saw a Hudsonian godwit in August, like it's cold out here, show us some ducks.
Cool story, bro.
Yeah, right. Like I'm like, you know, I'd be like, oh, it was an ash-throated flycatcher on this little walkway last year. Like, people don't care. What I like to do is try to tell them, like, when I'm doing that, I'm trying to say, like, hey, all seasons in these spots, all seasons can give you something. So even though, like, today we're looking at weird waterfowl, come back through in May because we'll be here again and you'll see some wild stuff that's totally different. Once you get people that kind of run the cycle on a single space for all 4 seasons, their mind's kind of blown sometimes, because then you look back and you say, hey, as a bird club at this refuge, we saw 162 species last year. That's wild.
Yeah.
I understand a picture having 1,000 words and 1,000 memories when it comes to birders, because I think a lot of us feel that way.
I love it, man. And those memories, man, there's been a lot of memories this spring and Black Birders Week and with the podcast 2 months in. Just reiterate, thank you to all the listeners for the support, comments. Please keep them going. We want to hear about your bird nerd moments. Share them. Let us know. Suggest topics, suggest some topics for some future episodes. And don't forget to subscribe and review the podcast. That helps us grow, helps it get out in front of more people so we can share some more bird joy. Man, this has been fun, my guy.
It's been great. We're heading into Juneteenth next week. So I like to reserve Juneteenth as kind of I like to reflect on that day and do it in different ways that I like to reflect. So it's the middle of the week this year. So not a lot we do as a bird club. That weekend we're going to a wildflower preserve. So that should be great. But that day, like, I hope everybody gets out and just find some moments of peace. And I like to think about, and it's going to sound super corny. Yeah, that's right. I love that shirt.
Dear ancestors, I understand the assignment.
I love it. Right.
Shout out to Urban Triage.
That's right. For me, that assignment is making sure that I'm finding as much joy in life and in particular nature outdoors on that day. Because I always like to think back to the fact that as enslaved folks were receiving that news, right, in particular the folks down in Texas that were getting it last, there were birds singing somewhere. And somebody had a moment to sit down and listen to that. Maybe didn't know what it was, but it was their first time listening to those birds sing in a moment of freedom, intended freedom. That is where I like to have my head that day. And so usually doing some sort of service, and most of the time I'm doing stuff for the bird club. What about you guys? You guys doing anything this week?
That day is really special for me and for us because Juneteenth of 21 is when Jeff and I went out on a bird walk together and decided to start our club. And what's wild, bro, we did not plan it to be on Juneteenth. It just happened to be Juneteenth. It was one of those where it fell on the weekend and we're out there.
Somebody planned it.
Right.
Somebody lined it up.
Yeah. We birded literally for 3 hours on Juneteenth. And by the end of that, we were cheesing. And I looked over at him. I'm like, bro, we got to share this with more people. He's like, let's go, basically. And 3 years, that'll be our 3-year anniversary coming up here next month. So
I got a bird with him. I got a bird with Dr.
Our first event was July. We decided to create our club 3 years ago, basically, in a couple of days. Yeah, on Juneteenth.
Well, happy anniversary.
Thank you, my brother. So you know what? I'm definitely going to be going birding. I'll be doing a pop-up somewhere. I'll let people know. I am definitely going birding on Juneteenth. And I know my ancestors will be proud that I'm out there enjoying the land as it should be. Because this our land as much as anybody's.
That's damn right. That is damn right. That's right. I don't have to go to work that day. So I'm going to be doing something to keep my mentals and my dentals fresh, right?
Yes. Man, it's been fun, man. I want to thank everybody for joining us today on the Bird Joy podcast, where we just spent a little time reflecting on spring migration, the amazing week that is Black Birders Week, and all that bird joy that has been flowing over these last few weeks, man. Any other thoughts, my brother?
Nope. Just want to say thanks again to all the listeners. Stay tuned. We're going to have some new episodes. We're going to have some guests. We're going to keep growing. And again, we appreciate all of you for procuring this bird joy, sending it back our way as you get it from us. And please, by all means, send it to the community around you. All right. We can all make a difference out here in bringing bird joy to Black and brown spaces and faces. And so let's keep doing it.
Yes, sir. Man, it's been a good one. Until next week, enjoying your Juneteenth and the start to summer. Nesting season is upon us. So go enjoy it. Go get yourself some bird joy, as you would say.
All right, brother. Yeah, so please like, rate, share podcast. You're in the Philly area, incolorbirding.org. We'll have some events going on this summer. And what about the homies in Wisconsin?
Yep, check us out. We got some stuff coming up still, and throughout the summer, going into the fall. You know, we bird 12 months a year. BIPOCbirdingclub.org.
All right, brother. I'll talk to you later.
All right, peace.